There is a scene in Season 2 Act 1 that tells us more than we were told directly. And I realized that while rewatching entire season and preparing for a video focused on Caitlyn that I already mentioned. You can still go and comment your thoughts under the post I made about it. And I feel like while I'll be mentioning that scene in the Caitlyn video, it still sort of deserves a spotlight of its own. It's one single moment, it seems, that Caitlyn gave to herself to grieve her mother. We know that Caitlyn took the loss of her mother hard, which is understandable. But I think many people overlook just how much that grief hit her, influenced her very essence, as well as her relationship with Vi in Season 2 Act 1 in particular. Let's take a moment to discuss that. This scene gives us more insight into what was going on in Caitlyn's head, which we were never strictly told. After all, Caitlyn's story was never given a proper moment to let us inside. She was either in the middle of her mission with Vi in Season 1, or in the middle of major implications of attack on the council in Season 2. And I feel like there was so much more going on in her head, more than we could have known, and maybe something that we should have guessed. Notice how Caitlyn isn't given a moment after the funeral, during which she stands alone. Everyone turning her backs to her, probably not knowing how to address her and her feelings. That is everyone except for Vi, Mel and Jace. She was thrown almost straight away into council meetings, Medada's meddling, as well as her own inner conflict portrayed so well in the intro. It's precisely the Jace conversation that made me think of what this scene actually told us about her state of mind. This is when Caitlyn allowed herself a second to grieve, as far as we know the only time she did it, as well as one of the very few scenes when she actually told us how she felt.
And every fibre of me just sinks, like a stone swallowed in dark water.
She went to a place in which she never argued with her mother, which already carries an implication of how grand the loss in reality was. We know that Caitlyn didn't have an easy relationship with Cassandra Kuraman. She was, or at least she thought she was, different than her. While Cassandra was focused on her council position, potentially saw her daughter's future following her steps, Caitlyn felt more like a misfit, feeling best out in the forest shooting her gun, dreaming of an enforcer's career. Her mother tried to protect her both from people she did not deem worthy, like Jace at one point, as well as from more risky positions within the forces, in reality stopping her from assuming responsible roles. But I imagine losing a parent that one actually argued with can be even more difficult and can hit harder than losing one you never actually entered any conflict with. Because Caitlyn was not only losing a mother, she was also losing a chance to reconciliate with her, to see what she had in common. And she did have things in common. We know it was Cassandra responsible for creating ventilation systems and giving Zornites a chance to breathe again. Something very much resembling Caitlyn's actions and ideals, especially in Season 1. Notice that Caitlyn tells Jace she sees 3 faces, but we only get to see 2. One of these faces is obviously her mother she just lost. And since she's sitting in a place of peace, a place of comfort her and her mother shared, purple petals simple as just that. Caitlyn's uncorrupted, unconditional love between her and her mother, despite it all. A love that was eventually corrupted and taken away by Jinx, as withering, blackening petals seem to suggest when we see second face carved in Caitlyn's head. Of course, Caitlyn and Jinx's relationship and conflict, that's a whole other separate topic, and I'll be making a video focused on just that as well. Goes without saying, in Caitlyn's head, even in her place of peace, she's still focused and fixated over the idea of getting revenge. Now pay attention how there's steam coming from Caitlyn's mouth when she's aiming at Jinx inside her head, which gives us an idea of just how cold of a place this must be inside of Caitlyn. For a brief moment, she's taken back from that vision by Jace, a close friend, to whom she admits she does think, something we were shown visually multiple times during the season as Caitlyn was choked by her opponents, resulting in her wearing a turtleneck protecting her neck in the very last scene of Arcane. We were so rarely told how Caitlyn felt, and I think it was overlooked just how low she was and how actions that followed made sense to a degree, or at least perhaps they could have been foreseen. In that moment, Caitlyn was still somewhat reasonable though, realizing how easy it is to hate and how wrong she was offering Vi the badge. Now, Vi is the third face Caitlyn's supposed to see. But the problem is, we have no idea what she sees, which version of Vi. While we saw the vision of her mother and of Jinx, we weren't shown visually the version of Vi in Caitlyn's head, Why is that? Now, I think it's because it might not be a vision that we'd like to see. Might not be as pleasant of a vision. We know that Vi was there for Caitlyn constantly after her mother's death. She was one of the few people that did not walk away from her. She did not leave even when her father was against her being there. She protected her and held her to the highest standards as Caitlyn started following her long way down, stopping her from whole-scale invasion, asking her not to change. But the problem is, Vi could have been an obstacle in Caitlyn's revenge plan. And it was also suggested visually because the moment Caitlyn mentions Vi, we see the ventilation system shutting down, preventing the air from flowing. Probably once again symbolizing Caitlyn's inability to breathe. During the Tobias conversation, one of the very first things Caitlyn says is,
I had the shot.
She did. But what stopped her from shooting? It was Vi telling her it's her sister. Naturally, she couldn't blame Vi, nor foresee what Jinx was going to do next. But fact remains, if it wasn't for Vi, Caitlyn probably would have taken the shot. Her mother would have been alive. And it's not the last time either Vi stood between Jinx and Caitlyn, as we know from episode 3. So, while we know Vi is on Caitlyn's mind, we're not specifically told what version of Vi she sees inside her head. Is it the Vi she knew and loved, very much like Vi's vision of Caitlyn during Jinx's dinner? Or is it the version of Vi that stops her from going after Jinx? Or maybe is it both? Yet again, show doesn't tell us. We have to figure that out on our own. Arcane treats us like we're intelligent viewers that can get a hint. Now the hints were there all throughout Act 1. While Vi was present, while the love does exist, there's still so many dark emotions circling back and forth between them two. The fact Vi is Jinx's sister, the fact Vi stopped Caitlyn from taking the shot, and finally the fact Vi might just be the only thing standing between Caitlyn and what she wanted most, revenge, which is something Caitlyn was probably aware of already at this point. And we know that Act 1 ended exactly with that.
I had the shot. I had the shot.
Caitlyn finally pushing Vi away, which shocked us at the moment. But it seems like hints were planted all along. Distance between Caitlyn and Vi could have been created earlier than during the Jinx confrontation. And the face in Caitlyn's mind might have been the one of Vi stopping her from shooting her sister. Now I realize this is not exactly the optimistic version of that scene, but yeah, that's what I got from it. And it's really depressing, but we know that the show ends well for them, so yeah, let's just stick to that. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.